If you follow my channel, you probably realize that one of the favorite things I like to do in the hobby is to get comic books signed. Well, in today's comic book haul, we've got a lot of different books from different sources that I've picked up recently for upcoming signings at my LCS and upcoming Comic Cons. So stay tuned as we go through each of the books and each of the artists I plan to see and hopefully get them all signed. So stay tuned. Welcome back, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's comic book haul, like I said at the beginning, these books all come from different sources, and we'll go through where I picked up some of these books. That's not really the important thing, though. The thing was, I ended up buying all of these books specifically for signings coming up this year in 2025. Some at my LCS and some at future Comic Cons down the road. First one up is Benjamin Percy, and he will be coming to Third Eye Comics in Annapolis, Maryland for a signing coming up. And he's got some pretty good books out there. And I realized I had a few of these, and I still have to look up some in my collection to go find. But there's definitely ones that I wanted to get, but I knew that I didn't have because I didn't subscribe to them and I wasn't really reading them, so I didn't have these issues. And one of them is a pretty big key. It's a very recent key, and it's probably one of the more expensive books I picked up recently for this type of thing. But let's just get right into this. So Benjamin Percy has been known for writing Wolverine. He's been writing Ghost Rider. So those are some of these kind of titles that I picked up. Recently, Deadpool and Wolverine came out, so we got that. I could have done the whole series. I think there's several issues in this, but I'm just going to concentrate on specific books. When you go to these signings at Third Eye, they do have limits. It's free unless you're unless you buy the VIP package, which I am already a part of. I've already bought into that, and if you guys haven't heard me talk about this before, I belong to the Weekend Warrior Elite Club, which allows me to get into the VIP line without additional cost. So I've already paid for it, but it's an unlimited thing. So, but to be in a VIP line, you do have to buy a package for that if you're not an elite member. But with that, you get certain limits, and I think it's up to about 12 or so books that you can get signed. That's generally the way it goes. So I was trying to be very specific on the books for what I wanted Benjamin Percy to sign. So I did really like the Deadpool Wolverine #1 right there. It's not really a key, but it is a recent pretty cool book. But I realized he had been writing Ghost Rider for several years, and although I did have a couple of issues here and there, I really couldn't put my hands on some of the #1s that had come out. And I found it a lot easier. Just go to eBay, pick up copies. I think I went to My Comic Shop because that has a huge selection of comics. And I was able to pick up not only books for Benjamin Percy, but in some of the other artists as well. I'm not sure. I'm looking at this giant list in front of me of all the different artists. And maybe some of those came from the same purchase. But in this case, a lot of these came from eBay and from My Comic Shop. But I also picked up Ghost Rider, Vengeance Forever. This I think is a variant. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's it may be the regular cover. To be quite honest, I don't know. I kind of went with #1s and covers that I really liked. There's this also, I know this is a variant of that, and if I believe this is right, who is it? It's Pepe Larraz, I believe, did that. Thought that was a pretty cool cover. It's very much like the Prince, was a Purple Rain cover right there. And then they had the Adam Kubert sketch cover right there, and it wasn't that expensive, and I kind of liked that. And then we had the regular Ghost Rider title, #1 right there. So I picked that up. This is a book I probably had, but it was going to have trouble finding in my recent, well, when I say recent, the last 5 years of all these new comics. I've got them boxed and maybe separated by Marvel and DC and Independent, but to try to find a specific book was going to be a little bit difficult because I don't quite have my last 5 years worth of new books organized as well as I would like. So I knew it would take me too long to try to find one issue like this. So it was easy enough to pay a few bucks and just get a #1 right here. But I also picked up a variant of that, and you've got this beautiful Ryan Stegman cover. And that is a book that, if I get this signed, I'll hold on to it, and maybe Ryan Stegman will show back up at Baltimore Comic Con this year. That I would like. And then got down to the big book that I wanted to get, and I skipped this. I had dropped the title at the time. at my LCS. I dropped most of the X-Men titles at the time. And I don't know, sometimes I'm my own worst enemy, and I see something, and you see a new character. You put it right there on the cover. It's a new variant. It's a new character. And you just look at it, and you know that they're trying to exploit you a little bit and get you to buy it. They're going to stick this new creature, new character, and I don't know. Sometimes you just see them trying to go for the money on certain things, and I just kind of balk at it, and I balked, and I didn't get it, and I wish I did, because it turned out to be it's a pretty valuable comic book now. I don't have grades on it, but I know it cost me a pretty penny to pick up a raw copy of Wolverine number 36, the first appearance of the Helverine. And I've got actually, somewhere I've got saved, I've definitely got, I didn't pick it up for this haul right here, but I'd already pulled Helverine number 1s for Benjamin Percy to sign, so I don't have that for the actual signing, for the actual show right here, but I do have them for the signing. But I went ahead and picked this up. This is a book that possibly could go ahead and get graded at this point. It's probably the only one really out of these Carrie Andrews books that I probably would consider getting graded as well. But that was it for Benjamin Percy. When he does the signing, much like the signings with some of these other people as well, I will do a show on those, and you'll get to see those after that particular signing. So you'll have to stay tuned for an upcoming episode on that. All right, so next up is Carrie Andrews, and somebody I've been seeing some covers of, but honestly, it looked a little bit like a knockoff, a cheap version of Todd McFarlane, to be quite honest, or a Jim Lee. It's what it felt like, kind of in that, sort of like that was that same exact feeling I had when Stephen Platt did that Moon Knight Spider-Man cover. It felt like it was a Todd McFarlane imitation. And some of the covers he's done recently has been a lot of X-Men, and it's very, because of what they are, it's very reminiscent of Jim Lee, and you can see some of that influence in that. But the covers have been interesting. The exaggeration has been interesting. And Ultimate Comics had a big sale just recently. It was a basically buy one, get one type of sale, and I ended up buying a bunch of books, and include not just Carrie Andrews, but there were some other artists as well. But some of these books right here came from that sale. And let me get into it. It's somewhere sitting here. I was going to pick up the David Nakayama covers, and that's coming up next. But from Ultimate Comics, I picked up some of these are virgins. I picked up, this is the facsimile to Secret Wars number 8. And then we've got Wolverine number 43. Again, does that not look like Jim Lee artwork right there? And I thought the She-Hulk, Sensational She-Hulk number 1 cover was really nice. And then they had sets of Virgins and trade dress that I really liked. And we had the Psylocke cover to X-Men number 10. And there's the Virgin on that. And we're getting too many books up here. We're going to have a lot of signings. I think Carrie Andrews is going to be at Baltimore Comic Con, so that will be to October. But with this sale, I wanted to go ahead and get these. We've got Original X-Men number 1. And then we had Sins of Sinister number 1. He does a lot of Rogue covers, a lot of the recent covers. And just like Benjamin Percy, I've got Carrie Andrews covers saved for that signing that did not come from this purchase, this comic book haul, but some of his recent X-Men books, Rogue in the Savage Land, he's doing covers on that. I've got some of those pulled for this signing as well. So I think Rogue is a very popular character. You look at a lot of these X-Men covers, whatever title it's on, you see Rogue front and center an awful lot. Just like this one here, Mystique number 1. And then finally, this one I wouldn't even recognize who the art was done by, but I really liked it when I was going through Ultimate Comics, and I was looking at everything that Carrie Andrews had there at that store. And this Star Wars Darth Vader black, white, and red. And I just really like that. I think that right there with the white cover with a signature right there on there will really be striking. So that's what I got for Carrie Andrews. Again, that will be if I'm not mistaken, in Baltimore in October. So these I'm going to have to sit on for a little while. But none of these are necessarily going to get graded, I don't think. I don't think there's a big market out there for that. And I don't need to get every book I own graded. That is for sure. I don't have that much money. But let's carry on. Like I said, David Nakayama was also very popular. When that big sale, I also picked up a bunch of David Nakayama covers. And let me show you what I've got here. We got X-Men number 10 with Jubilee. I thought this was really nice. But they had the Virgin foil on that as well. And I don't know, this is the one artist right here that I don't think I've got scheduled this year. He has been at Heroes Con, I think it was 2 years ago. So I don't know. And I know Ultimate Comics is right there in North Carolina anyway. I think that there's a possibility that he will be back at Heroes Con sooner than later. So fingers crossed, in the next round of announcements of an artist, I'm hoping to see David Nakayama. 2 years ago, he was a late add, and it was only maybe 2 to 3 weeks, if that, when they got added. So I had to pull those books real quick a couple years ago for that. We've got X-Men, I think this is X-Men 32, the Psylocke. And here is another beautiful Rogue. It is a facsimile to issue number 274, that classic Jim Lee book with Rogue in the Savage Land with Magneto. And I think Nick Fury too. And that was a trade dress, I forgot. We got the Virgin on that. And then lastly, I picked this up, and I had already got this book, and I had got it signed by the original artist on this facsimile, with the intent to get David Nakayama at some point. And I'm going to show it to you. It is the King Size Annual to Avengers number 10, the first appearance of Rogue. And what's nice about this is they do have a version of this, but it just has Rogue busting through the page. You don't see the bit of original Avengers cover there, the Al Milgrom cover that she's busting through. And I took this to Four State Comic Con in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania a year ago, or last year, and Michael Golden was there, and I had him sign this, and I thought it was a really good copy. My intent was to send this into the David Nakayama signing at CGC with the Michael Golden autograph, and there was a tick over here, and it is a thicker book, and I couldn't get it out to my satisfaction. And I know I see Michael Golden multiple times at multiple cons. His autograph at this point, God willing, is still easy to get. So what I did was I ended up buying another copy from Ultimate Comics with the intent of restarting this project to get Michael Golden, because his artwork's on the inside. Also a book to take to the Chris Claremont signing. He will be at, I know he's doing a CGC signing, but I'm taking this to Baltimore and to Heroes Con this year. He will be at both cons. So I plan on adding Chris Claremont to this as well. And that would be a nice project, a nice trifecta if I can get all three of them on there. And honestly, I think Al Milgrom is going to be around as well. I'll have him sign it. And it was curious. I had a conversation with Michael Golden when I got the other one signed. And I got to tell you first, though, this is one of those premium Michael Golden books that he does definitely charges for, even though it's a facsimile. Not down on that kind of thing, but just know that there are certain books by certain artists that they know they can get the premium dollars for, and I end up charging me more than a normal autograph on something like this. But we were talking about it, and he said this is a pretty cool cover by Nakayama. He said what he wished he had done, though, is illustrated her like she actually looked in the book, and she looks much different than she looks these days. So that was kind of curious, and it's something I probably will talk to David Nakayama about if I ever get that chance, for sure. But that was it for Nakayama. Some pretty good books right there. All right, who's up next? We got some good artists. Not as many books in some of these, but I'm adding to books I've already got accumulated for these signings. Again, this was the recent comic book haul books I've been picking up. And in that Ultimate Comics run, I also picked up this beautiful Terry Dodson, Rachel Dawson cover. It is, I believe this is Phoenix Resurrection #1. And just an absolute stunner of a cover right there. I go hot and cold on Terry Dodson a lot. I don't like some of the newer stuff, but sometimes he has some beautiful, beautiful illustrations, and I love them. So this was one that will go into a pile. Actually, he is another one that is not signed up yet, but he has been a recent attendee in Baltimore and I got him, I think, 2 years ago. No show last year, or he just wasn't on the list, but I think I'll probably see him somewhere in the near future. So we got a couple books in Terry Dawson that are going to be saved for this, and I'll definitely save this right here. Next up was Gabriel Del Otto. I think he was having a CGC signing, and this book right here was one that it was in that Ultimate Comics group, and I needed one more book to kind of add to fill out the buy one get one on this, and I really like this Wolverine cover. It's Wolverine #1 right here. It's a little hard to see in the dark, but look at that. It's some beautiful illustration right there. And then up next was Kyle Higgins. Now, here's my problem. Kyle Higgins was just at Third Eye Comics for this signing. He came in to sign for the relaunch of Radiant Black. And I had a giant pile of books, and by this point, you guys will have had a chance to already see that episode. It's already been out. And I got a ton of books signed, including issue #1. But I was having trouble finding them, and so I kind of panicked, and I went on eBay, and I ordered a copy of Radiant Black #1 that came in while I was actually on the road to the signing. Came in that same day, so I couldn't take this copy, but it's okay. I ended up finding both other copies I had. One was a raw that I honestly, it's not the best. There's a little tick over there I didn't like. Not that I'm getting it graded necessarily, but I always want that chance to grade it if I feel like it. But the second copy was actually signed by Michael Cho, so I got that one signed for sure. And now the intent is I will hold on to this book. I probably will see if I get a chance to see Michael Cho again. I think he's also scheduled for Baltimore and Heroes. I will take this and have both of them. Well, if I get Higgins again, because I think he was in Baltimore last year, I didn't even realize it. But I will definitely get Michael Cho to sign both of these, and I will try to get Higgins on this one at some point as well. All right, so next up was another artist that I really like. When I was going through those Ultimate Comics books, looking at some of those Carrie Andrews covers and Naiva Nakayama, and some suggestions came up, and I saw this book right here, and I didn't know the artist. And I think I said at the very beginning, most of these books were for upcoming signings. I was a little mistaken. A few of these were for hopeful upcoming signings, because I would love to get this signed. This is X-Men #11 right there. It is Alexander Lozano, and I don't think I'd really recognize this artist, but this Rogue cover was fantastic. And look at this right here. This is the version of it. Man, that is some striking characteristics. The style was really good, very dynamic. I really like this. And not only did he have this, there was Magic #1 that had just come out. And man, this was a stunner of a cover. I'd never seen this. Even when that book came out, it wasn't on my radar. And I ended up picking up the trade dress and the version on that one as well. We'll see if that's a chance I can ever get these signed. As I said, my favorite part of the hobby is to get books signed, not necessarily get books graded and to sell. That's not my favorite thing in the hobby. My favorite thing is to meet the artist and get some of these great books signed. So hopefully that will happen in the near future. And if not, I still love those books, and I love that artwork. And then the last person was Lyrics Lee. This was the last ones, I think I'm looking down here, the last ones I picked up at that Ultimate Comic sale. It was a big order when I got that in. My wife was not very happy with that box. It was very big. And I ended up with X-23 Deadly Regenesis. And I thought this was a very nice X-23 cover. This is issue #3, but I picked up the version of that as well, and I think the version will be really nice if I ever get a chance to get signed. Without the trade dress, you've got this beautiful open area for an autograph. That will look fantastic at some point. We'll see. And now we're down to it, the last two artists, and definitely both of these are upcoming. The first one here, for the third time in probably in under 8 months, coming back to Third Eye Comics. In fact, only about 2 weeks out from the filming of this show, Scott Snyder is coming back to Third Eye, and he's bringing a host of other creators with him, but I don't have books for them out of this comic book haul. But for Scott Snyder, I definitely have some stuff, and for him, I'm pulling out the stops because I really did well in that last signing. The Absolute Batman had just come out. Nick Dargato was right there with him, and I got a ton of books signed by him. And I ended up, honestly, I sold a handful of those, and I don't have much left. And I realized I sold both of my regular covers of that. And I ended up going out and buying a couple of regular cover A's. Now, I've got some of the alternate covers still saved. I think I've got a Jim Lee in there, a couple of Jim Lee covers for Absolute Batman #1. But for me, I'll be honest, I was offered way too much money for the graded versions, and I sold both copies that I got graded. And I realized, like I said, I didn't keep one for myself. So Scott Snyder's coming back. So the plan is I'm going to get Scott Snyder to sign both of these. And it turns out Nick Dargato, and this is what kind of made my decision for me to go ahead and get a couple more of these, is going to be at Heroes Con later in the year. So I will be able a chance to get to replicate this whole thing all over again and be able to have at least one raw copy in my collection. We don't know if we end up getting them graded this time or not, but that's the intent right now. And I will definitely be filming at that Scott Snyder signing there. As I said, there are some other artists that are going to be there. It's going to be a big signing. Got a lot of work ahead of me to pull some of the other books that are going to be there for those artists. So stay tuned for a future episode on that. And now that brings us down to the final book I picked up, and this was an eBay purchase. I think these were eBay as well. And this one, I think I got it at a really good price because most of the time I see this book at $50 and higher. I got it nearly half of that. And it's a book I wish I had had a year ago for Heroes Con, because the creator of this book was there, and I did get a bunch of his book. It was a one-shot, and the creator was there. I got a bunch of those covers signed, but I didn't have this variant. I think it was a 1 in 25 variant that I didn't pick up at the time. And what was funny, at the time, I didn't really care for the art. But after spending time in line, I realized I was right in front of this particular artist who did this variant cover. And seeing her interact with people and seeing her on some of the YouTube channels, she seems like a really fun creator, and kind of turned me around on some of her artwork. And I decided this is one of those covers I wanted to get Maria Wolf to sign. It's Doom #1, and she'll be back at Heroes Con, I believe, this year, but as well as Sanford Green. But before that even happens, Sanford Green is coming back for another signing at Third Eye Comics before that. So I'll definitely have this to get signed this time for that signing. So that is another show that you will have seen by this point as well, that all the great other Doom books that I got signed, as well as some of his, I believe he did a variant of Black Lightning #1. And I think he did a variant I picked up of Absolute Batman #2 that he did. I don't think I had a remark on that one, but there was a remark on his Doom #1, the second printing cover. I picked up that was pretty nice as well. But you would have seen that if you watched that episode. But I didn't have this. So this one's going to go with me to Heroes Con this year, and I actually get a chance to meet Maria Wolf, and I've got some other books for her as well. So that should be fun. She seems like a really cool person, a lot of personality, and just seems like a really happy person. And while I was standing there in line for somebody else, I was getting to see her interact with some other people, and I realized maybe I should give her a shot. And that's what I did. So I finally picked up this cover, and the intent is to go to Heroes Con this year and get her to sign that, and have already gotten Sanford Green. All right, guys, that is it. This has been a fun comic book haul, a very specific style of comic book haul. Everything in this is intended to get signed. Some of these I'll just have to wait to see if there's ever going to be an opportunity, but the other half are definitely on the list to get signed. And again, we will have episodes about all of these at some point. All right, so that is it, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode, definitely give me a like, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the episodes that I put out each and every week. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. And I also look forward to hearing your comments about the books, and are for your fans of these artists, and do you have autographs by these guys? I would love to know. Just leave me a comment in the comment section below. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a great day. I will see you for the next episode. Just remember, every comic has a story.